All right. Council meeting will come to order. Can we all stand for the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Edmonston's Town Council meeting for May. I had to think about it, what month it was, for May. The first thing we'll do, first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. If there are no adjustments, any comments or anything, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda for Wednesday, May 16, 2018.
There's a second?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Aye. Thank you. I want to move on to the presentation of the Bladensburg Fire Department's annual gift to us, to them from us. We thank you so very much for your services, risking your lives. Obviously, people that run to the fire and run to the emergency, we greatly appreciate it. Appreciate you being in our community. So it is Bladensburg is part of Fort Towns.
Yeah, always anything y'all need.
Thank
Can you turn around?
Where's that big check? This big gigantic, look at it like
Like a lottery, like a
Zoom
lottery.
in.
There we are.
Yeah.
We have one, we donate to the Fallen Firefighter Association, so when we make the donations.
I thought you won the lottery. That's what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
I wish.
You were gonna say?
Yeah, just wanted to remind the town and residents, change your smoke detectors. So far this year in PG County, we've lost 7 residents of the county because of smoke detectors not being working order. And also there is a scam going around. I just happened to read something. It's a Firefighters Association is calling around. There is no such thing. So don't donate to them. It's real easy.
I understand that kitty smoke detectors are, there's a what do you call it when you take them off the shelf? Recall, thank you.
Certain ones. That doesn't affect the ones, it does and it doesn't. They took them all off the shelves, but it was a very small portion of what's sold around here. Mostly the ones out in like Western Maryland, because they sell in different places.
Do you have any flyers on that or anything that you?
I don't with me.
send one to us?
I can get the contact info and send it to Rodney, or you just have to get your card.
So we can put it in a newsletter
Yeah.
for our residents.
And you can also check Prince George's County, or pgfd.com, I think it is, and you can actually get a link to the new laws and all that updated stuff. It's under fire prevention.
Yeah, because a lot changed with smoke detectors being in bedrooms, certain houses, sprinklers, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's stuff we
I gotta give you
out
the
to our
more
residents.
in-depth stuff. I'm more of your sector, the administrative side.
Oh,
But
okay.
if I get the chief to come over here and talk, he said he's running calls. So.
Oh, okay. Flexible.
Do they still go around to residents to install the smoke detectors?
You actually have to contact the county about that, and then they send a list now to the stations for the areas. 'Cause we were having people, Hyattsville is a big one. Hyattsville's half of PG County. So they would call up, hey, I'm in Hyattsville, and it would actually be up like Landover Road, up by the big football stadium, which is
FedEx.
3 fire stations away from us. So
Oh, wow.
they kind of centralize it, and then they distribute, I think it's once a month.
Okay. I was gonna say there's a fire station right there, right there on 202.
Anytime y'all want to walkthroughs or
Exactly.
anyone that wants to do ride-along programs, it's a fun night. The mayor of Bladensburg actually just came and she was up for, I think she said she ended up going to bed at like 4 in the morning, so it's a fun night for anyone that doesn't want to come just ride for 24 hours at a time.
And so, what do you actually ride in? Like in the
well, it depends.
chase car? I mean,
We have The chief's vehicles, now we're 100% volunteer, so it all depends on if the chief's there. We all have full-time jobs. Our chief is a DC firefighter. Our second chief in command is a Montgomery County firefighter, and our third chief is a DOD police officer down at Indian Head Navy base. So the chiefs, those jobs, same thing. They run 24 to 48-hour shifts, and you gotta kind of hit the chiefs at the right time to be there. But as long as there's space in the fire truck, you can actually ride in the fire truck. You gotta stay in the fire truck, but you can come ride on it.
Yeah, because I might be interested in doing that.
All more than welcome to.
Gary, we appreciate the Christmas visit from Santa on the fire trucks. It's an exciting
What if I want to drive?
thing.
Sorry?
What if I want to drive the fire truck, the engine and stuff?
You gotta get
On the
the
call.
county to approve that. Every one of our drivers actually has to go through a county.
I drove stuff similar to that in the military.
Well, you have to get a special card from the county. Even like me, well, I got mine years ago, but the new guys they actually have to go through a training course now at Cheltenham, down by Southern Maryland Hospital, where the fire department training academy is. You have to go through an actual course now. So it's a little bit harder than it was 5 years ago.
That's a good thing.
But
Yeah. Okay.
thank you very much.
And I also wanted to mention, I don't know if you ever come around during Christmas on fire trucks, but it brings so much joy to the young and the mature. So we greatly appreciate that. I know you guys cover a lot of ground.
Yeah, we gotta make sure the date when he's coming through. So we had to run and chase it down.
Well, it's so loud, I don't know how we can miss it. It's very loud.
No, it was bad time because Ron had to chase it down.
Oh yeah, they came and told us that y'all had a bunch of kids out that night.
Yeah, because you didn't usually take this route. So
because
that was a
you
great
gotta make that U-turn. It's just
Right.
a hard to do. As long as you know in advance, we can do wherever.
But the last 2 years you've given us the date and it's worked great because we've been able to publicize the date.
Yeah, and I'll make sure it gets out to y'all as well.
And then we've invited you to participate in the Edmonston Day Parade, which you
Okay.
subject to calls.
Yeah,
Obviously.
I can definitely. My fire prevention guy would be in charge of that, but I'll definitely.
It's June 9th.
Contact you.
Right.
And get
Chief,
y'all
I sent it to Chief and he usually responds.
Okay.
So
All right.
thank you for that too.
Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you
Sorry I
very
can't come more, but I got Wednesday meetings and Tuesday meetings.
much. You go ahead and write those signs.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Take
very
care
much.
of the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, have a good night.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, now moving on.
Second, Mayor. Can't take the calls.
What we doing now?
Sarah, she can't hear on Skype.
Can you mute it from there, please?
Just mute. She stay on the Skype, but just mute.
That was
the-
informal.
Let me start lying.
Hello? Hi folks, I'm sorry we're having technical difficulties, but yeah, if you just mute the Skype. I don't think it's muted because I can hear myself on the screen.
It is muted.
It is muted.
We got this over here. Oh,
It's not muted. I can hear it on my
I hit
Skype.
mute. It is muted.
Yeah, the button.
We used to be, I just unmuted it, and so now I'm muting it again.
There you go.
There we go. I think that works. Thank you so much. And
So do I take this off?
for the residents
No.
that are there, I'm sorry. I
Oh,
thought that we
both
had
of
a
them. Oh,
we had an unexpected change of the date for this council meeting, and I was already scheduled to be at my in-laws' house in Kentucky, which is where I am now. You can see the basement, the lovely basement of my in-laws behind me. So sorry about that.
Thank you, Miss Sarah. So, as
Probably about 10 minutes. Still stuck in traffic there on Kenilworth.
terrific.
Indeed. She's in traffic.
Yeah, thank you. Before we move on with the agenda, I failed to pause for a moment of silence. And also when we pause, just to remember our Congressman Brown, who is home recuperating from his stroke and the loss of cabinets, the county council in Baltimore.
His stroke was a mini stroke, wasn't it? It wasn't a real big stroke.
Stroke is stroke. But it was, yeah, they said it was a mild, yeah. So if we could just take a few moments, just for a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, as we move on the agenda, the next item is the public comments. Did anyone sign up? You, come on up. You just want to state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Julio Alex Maltez, address 4903 Gallatin Street. And the issue I'd like to address is the possible amendment or revision of a statute that has to do with parking, specifically around curb radiuses, or I think in you guys' statute, you guys call it the curb fillet, specifically, what is it, chapter 44(5). Currently, the statute under subsection 4 reads that parking near to any intersecting street than 15 feet from the curb fillet of said street, that's the restricted parking. Talking about, just curbs. I did some research on that, and that's actually specifically for certain instances where in the suburbs you have sidewalks and crosswalks and you want to take care of your pedestrians, which makes sense. On the street that I reside on, specifically that turn, which is 4906 Gallatin Street, no sidewalks, no crosswalks, and therefore these measures are pretty much unnecessary. In addition to that, larger curb radiuses increase, well, they don't necessarily increase, but they tend to have higher speeds for vehicles that are turning. Also, the 15-foot curb radius is suggested for vehicles like large trucks that are turning into the residences. Mm-hmm. Our streets, we restrict any large trucks from turning down that street. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I really think that the implementation of the 15-foot parking, restriction is it's a little outdated. It's something that I would like to consider to be revised or amended. Once again, I've done some study with the state's Motor Vehicle Highway Administration, and they've even recommended that the reduced curb radius is better for traffic flow. Increasing parking does also restrict certain speed limits. People tend to drive slower when there's more vehicles parked. And parking is an issue, well, at least it has been for me and my family, which we also reside at 4905 Gallatin Street. And there's been more and more restricted parking on our street. So we're trying to open up to see what we can do so we can abide by the town's laws and how we can do it and work together as a team to get this issue addressed. Let's see. I also wanted to see if there was any statute that the town has with regards to parking restrictions around sewer drains. I could not find any, but I've seen, some places where they're painted and covered, and I just, want to clarify as to why that is,
Why, what is?
Sewer drain.
Certain
Why?
sewer
What are you
drains,
saying? I'm sorry,
you
say
can't
that
park
again,
around
please.
certain sewer drains, and I'm trying to figure out, I couldn't find any statute as far as restricting parking around sewer drains. So I was trying to see if there is any that you guys could specify. That would be very helpful.
Okay.
Because that's something that I also would like to discuss in any type of venue that you guys are available.
Well, do you notice that in the town where you live at?
I have, yes.
What color?
It's painted yellow, right?
Some are, some aren't.
Our sewer drains are painted.
Yeah.
To say, he's talking
Right.
about the ones that are painted.
No, he's talking about the yellow hazardous parking.
Paint, yeah,
And
that's
some
around
of them may
some.
fit in within a 15-mile radius. If you
Some are
just,
definitely not within the 15-mile radius.
yeah, so just email me or text me
Sure.
the locations. The guys can go take a look and see why. They're,
Okay.
what we're finding as we go through the town. Sometimes things were marked a long time ago.
I get
for
that. I
some-
get that. Like I said, I'm just trying to open up the
Yeah, we
discussion
found a
as to-
sign over here just the other day.
Yeah.
It had a yellow spot from maybe here to Council Member Bennett White,
Uh-huh.
and a sign that said no parking between, and we don't know why. It was in,
Right.
it was right in the middle of the street.
Yeah, you and I had a brief conversation, I want to say last week, about the extending of specifically 4906 around the fire hydrant.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah.
safety vehicles
Oh, yeah.
have to make, have to have access to the fire hydrants. No argument there. I'm in full cooperation with that. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, our parking.
Yeah, safety first. I agree with that.
Absolutely, our parking
wholeheartedly.
ordinance definitely
Yeah.
needs looked at.
But as far as like the other
Locations, for
radiuses
sure.
and things like that, which have recently been extended, I just, want to see if we can talk about that to get that reduced, because as it stands right now, there's nowhere to park if I have any guests over. None. I mean, absolutely none. There's like the one parking spot that's available for the next 3-4 houses. So I'd like to have that addressed if we could.
Well, I live over in the apartments, and I only got one. No guests at all.
We should have that discussed too then.
That's right.
So,
Another issue I wanted to talk about in addition to the sewer drains was what could we do to open up a discussion about updating the park on 47th Avenue, if any.
That's a great one.
oh, we in the process.
Yeah,
That's a
There's
really
a
good one,
spinny
Alex.
thing, 2 little
Right.
bouncy things, and some old swings and a
we
tennis
share
court.
your pain.
I just want to know what process, if any, we could discuss to
The,
get that updated.
the playground is being updated this fall.
Oh, okay.
It's out for bid right now with Maryland Park and Planning.
Because there's
and-
another park right over the bridge.
The
Beautiful
green,
park.
yeah.
Love that park. My
Yep.
daughter loves that
Over
park.
the bridge.
So I was
Yeah,
like, if
we're
we
right
can
here.
get that a
Take
little
care.
closer to the house,
The Eagle Farms.
By the
yeah, my
farm.
toddler would just simply adore
The
that,
Crittenden Street Park is the
Yeah,
one.
the new parking, the new equipment in 47th Avenue will have 2 different age groups. So
Oh, okay.
it'll be much like the one
You're
that
going to
you're
make her
talking
day.
about.
You guys are
Um,
definitely going to make her day.
There's
Yes.
a futsal, the tennis court's being converted to futsal and volleyball,
Oh, okay.
and new fence is going up and a new rain garden. So all of that will be happening through the summer and fall.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
You guys are
And
gonna make
Rob,
her day.
there's also
That's
going to
good.
be, there'll be a toddler space for
Yes.
2 to 5-year-olds as
Yes.
well as for 5 to 12-year-olds. So it'll be a lot
Right.
like the Crittenden Street
There
Park.
it just
That's
two
awesome.
different.
That's awesome. And I remember when we first moved here, me and my wife had addressed the town hall. Very proud to be residents here at Edmonston. We love this neighborhood. We really do. It's very peaceful,
Very good.
very quiet, and there is a little to no space to walk around our little neighborhood. No sidewalks or anything. But ever since then, we've always just adored this neighborhood. So we're very grateful to be here, and we look forward to working with you guys to resolve some of the inquiries that I'm making tonight, if any. Any type of way that you think I could follow up with anybody, or because I don't know what the proper way to.
You are doing it
Mr.
the
Barnes.
right way.
Okay.
Yes.
I really appreciate everyone's cooperation
Feel free to
and-
call myself.
Yeah. Once again, Ms. Mayor Gann, I'm sorry I didn't return your call. Me and my wife are very busy. She is an event coordinator for a big place, historic in D.C. So
Oh,
I
yeah?
stay. She works crazy hours, and then I'm also a dual career person, and then I have to take care of the family.
Yes,
so
indeed.
it's not
you're-
something.
But you're here tonight.
Yes.
And that's the thing.
Your
You get
2
a chance to
council
hear from
members
them.
are right there too.
Yeah, I met you one time.
We met a
Yeah,
couple
yes,
times, I
yes,
think.
yes.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
And actually, Captain Sullivan did a survey back on, it's been a while, on the parking restrictions. I know in our neighborhood, he did a survey because it was very inconsistent. Like one sign would say you can park here not from 6 to 10, or the other sign would say no parking. So he actually did a survey. So that's something we have to revisit.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
so,
the
yeah, we're
street
gonna
right
look at
next
that
to
again.
us, on the opposite side, not Lafayette, but on the opposite side, I can't remember.
Yeah.
There's no curb restricted
Yeah,
parking
it was
there.
crazy
and
for me too.
So we have it on one side, we don't have it on the
Right.
other, and uniformity is something that's, is appreciated by all residents.
We're gonna look into that.
So if we can look
Absolutely.
into it, I would really appreciate it. All
Thank
right.
you for bringing
Thank you
it
for
up.
your time.
Thank you.
for coming.
Thank you.
Well, one thing we know, times have changed, and I know when we started doing parking restrictions within the town, it was based on where the complaints were.
Yeah.
And what the issues were
Right.
with the
And they're not there.
industrial area.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why we have so much inconsistency.
that's why no trucks can go down our street. Yeah.
That's what it is. So thank you very much for bringing those items to our attention. And,
I didn't have anything to say, but based on what he.
'cause you,
I wasn't aware that they were changing the tennis courts. I actually used that tennis court since they took away the court to put the garden area in that they didn't bring to our attention either. So is there any way that we could have that addressed before that's actually?
But I think they're still keeping the tennis courts, aren't
That is
they?
the last tennis court in the area.
It potentially can be used for all three purposes.
Yeah.
It's multi-purpose.
They're not taking it away.
Multi-purpose.
It's up to us to provide the nets and the ability to put the nets up and down. Not Maryland Park and Planning won't do that once it's converted. But
As
it's
they're
a conversation we
converting,
can
they
have.
put a proper, hitting wall in place because that one's not a
Yeah,
real hitting wall.
Yeah, I don't think they would do that.
They'll at least put the gate up.
Yeah. But I'll have a conversation with them.
And there was one other comment I wanted to make with your interest in the park. We're going to be naming the park.
Ooh.
So maybe you can participate in that. For
Is that
sure.
gonna be like an online poll or just?
Well, we were discussing how we
Yeah,
were going to
we're
do
gonna
that.
tie
I
it
think
into
we're going to
Edmonston
reach it
Day.
out to the, send it out to the residents. So,
I like that idea.
yeah. All right,
I don't
fantastic.
know. Maybe nominate your name. You never know.
And
You live at
Dr. Daniels, we
4905.
have your
Is that your
comment
address?
about the tennis courts.
4903.
4903. Okay.
All right, so the next item that we have, if there are no other public comments, everyone is good. We'll have the swearing in for Officer Torres. Officer Torres has been sworn in officially. She's been working for us for a month. Has it been? But we had to do it publicly. And so tonight is your public swearing in. Just repeat after me. This is the oath of office. I state your name.
I, Senator Lewis,
Do swear
do swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States,
of the United States,
and I will be faithful
and I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland,
and support
and support
the Constitution
the Constitution
and laws thereof.
and laws thereof,
And I will be the best
and I will be the best
of my skills,
of my skills,
abilities,
abilities,
and judgment,
and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality
without partiality
or prejudices,
or prejudices,
execute the office of police officer
execute the office of police officer
for the town of Edmonston,
in the town of Edmonston,
Prince George's County, Maryland,
Prince George's County,
according to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and laws of this state,
and laws of this state,
the Code of Prince George's County,
the Code of Prince George's County,
and the Code of the town of Edmonston.
and the Code of the Town of Edmonston.
Congratulations.
Gotcha. Thank you.
That was like a testament to the family.
And we thank you for serving in Edmonston. Thank you for what you've done thus far. And hope you stay here for a long, 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 long time.
You're on your own now.
We've already done that.
Oh, yeah, she Austin Young, so she Oh. I'm surprised you didn't come up.
So the next item we have on the agenda is old business. It's the consideration of hiring the police chief. That was placed on the agenda. Who wanted to discuss that?
Well, this,
Councilmember Bennett White requested it for the agenda.
Okay, well, it was my thought that we should, we hadn't actually voted on whether or not we were going to replace Captain Sullivan and actually get a police chief. So I wanted us to do a formal vote on that. The actual, whether we were actually going to have a police chief or not. That was the reason I had it put on the agenda.
I thought we were gonna go with the proposal that he submitted that one time. And I thought we had voted on it, but somehow it got in the mix, and we never continued it.
Right, so we haven't actually done a formal vote on it.
Right.
So that's
On the proposal that he had submitted to us.
Well, so then I think we're looking at two things. So we're looking at if we're actually going to hire a new police chief, and if we do not, are we going to go with the proposal that Captain Sullivan came up with? So I think we're looking at two separate issues.
Myself, I like the proposals that he came up with. I didn't find anything wrong with it. And that particular meeting, I thought we were voting on it, but somehow something came about and it didn't go through.
May I
Yes.
insert myself here?
Yes.
I have looked back at the process for this in terms of your charter and code.
Okay.
And the process is that the mayor submits an appointment to you for approval by you. But, so, you cannot go ahead and propose it yourselves. It comes to you from the mayor, and then you vote on whether or not that proposal is acceptable. So I was just pulling up the code section for you now. Yeah, the recommendation, whether the recommendation is acceptable to you. But it's not something that you take up from the beginning. It's not something that's generated by council.
Okay, so it's in our code.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pulling it up.
And we of course wouldn't know that because our code book hasn't been. We're waiting for an update.
It's coming the end of the month.
Yep. Okay.
So it's the one that when it's been that way, but it was repeated when we did that charter amendment that changed.
The chief and
It clarified what the lines of authority were for the manager and for the chief.
So why did we go through the whole process of having town hall meetings with the residents to see whether they wanted to go forward with the chief or not?
We had a town hall. We were calling town hall meetings to get the residents' input.
Yes, to whether we were going to go
Period.
forward.
No, period.
Because
If they're
remember, from my notes here on 9/27/2017, because Betsy was the one who made the suggestion that we keep Sullivan and for 1 year as on an interim basis and have 7 additional officers, 7 officers in total. And I remember us having the dialogue going back and forth as to.
That was at the meeting.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the purpose for the meeting was to get feedback from the residents about our police department, and they could weigh in on as to whether they wanted a chief, if they thought we should have a chief. It was to get the residents' input, period, all the way around. There was no restriction on the conversation about the police department. I also remember that I did not want the police there because I didn't want it to affect the residents' input. So what came out of that meeting may have been those suggestions, and that was okay. We were taking the residents' feedback.
Okay, so as it stands right now, okay, so I'm not gonna answer the question. I'm gonna ask the question. So the way it stands right now, we're gonna wait for you to give us the recommendation, and then we decide whether
We all
right
vote.
as council we're gonna vote as to whether. Okay.
And it doesn't exclude anyone. Whoever's included in the interviewing process has the opportunity to potentially become.
Tracy, I'm sorry, Mary, can you speak up a little bit?
Yes, I'm sorry. I said that we'll go through the process and recommendation. It doesn't exclude anyone who is part of that pool. You go through the interview process, and I recommend someone, and we vote whether it's a yay or nay. If it's a yay, great. We have someone.
And when
The
is
chief.
this supposed to go happen?
By June, by the end of June.
And if it's a nay, what do we do? Do we start the process over
You don't
again?
have to start the process over
okay.
because I would hope that we have some great people lined up. And after the interview, I mean, we'll know. And I think it's a fair process. There's we can decide, we could have.
I don't think it's fair.
To go through an interview process, I believe that that's a very fair process. You open it up to those who are on the outside to apply for the position, as well as on the inside. No one is stopping Captain Sullivan from applying. No one ever has stopped Captain Sullivan from applying. He can go through the same process as everyone else. This does not keep Captain Sullivan.
So what's
out
his
of
function
anything.
now? I mean, he's been in that pretty much in that position since Chief Walker left.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what's
It's called
why
fair
go?
process.
I mean,
Well, my only concern is, which I've been saying, I've spoken with you many times, being top heavy with the captain and the chief in such a small municipality. We're talking about $160,000 just for two employees, and that's my concern. For I think it's overkill in terms of the ratio, the number of residents.
And we can talk about that because I also mentioned that not everyone that comes in will be desiring a huge salary, or we also have to consider if we were thinking about hiring 5 additional officers, or I guess it'll be 4, because I think the count was 5 officers and the captain. Is that correct?
6 officers.
6 officers and the captain. If we do that, that's officers that we have to train. Everyone has to go through training when they first come into Edmonston. We have to consider insurance. We provide a very good insurance package for our employees. We have to consider overtime. All of that when we have those additional officers here. So, yes, we've always been top heavy ever since the captain was promoted to captain. I don't know where you started. Did you start?
I started as
captain?
lieutenant.
Oh, lieutenant, right.
Yeah, I was lieutenant for 2 years.
And we functioned, and our budget was good, and it's nothing wrong with looking at, are we too top heavy? There's nothing wrong with that at all. And I'm not saying that, I never said it was, but I think we need to go through the process of interviewing and making a selection. That's it.
Are there guidelines of what the other municipalities are doing in terms of you have to have a police chief and a captain? I mean, is there a standard?
No.
So everything is your own town?
Well, it's similar. It's similar.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I was wondering
Or,
if
or
there's some
Tracy, can you
consistency.
repeat it so I can hear it?
Yeah, Dr. Dallas just wanted to know if there's a standard all the way around for hiring a chief, and should you have a captain and a chief, or is that the norm?
Well, what's the structure? I mean, obviously you can't just decide that you only need, or you only want to have whatever. I would assume that if you have a town that has residents and problems, that you have a structure. That you
Our
must
structure-
have at least 2 top people so that somebody could, there has to be a balance. or
That's
else
what our
you
code
end up
says.
having everything be-
Our code
going
actually
to
says that we
person's
should have a police chief, an assistant chief, and I think it's a sergeant and below. So we actually, our code says we should have a chief.
Really?
It says we should have an
Yeah,
assistant chief.
yeah. Because
I took over as acting
so why
chief.
do we have the whole debate about whether we're gonna go with a chief? Because I remember when the whole process started, when after Chief Walker retired, or retired.
I'm the only
I
one
remember the
got
question came
32
up:
years
are we going to
experience.
continue with the chief?
Next
So
one's 10.
if that is in the charter, then the
Why don't
question,
you just start
right?
with
Why would you
that?
even have that
Yeah,
question? Why would you even go down that road
waste a
then?
lot of time.
Yeah.
That was never my question. I always wanted to go through the panel process, so it was never my question. I
Well, I
wanted
guess-
to do the fair interviewing, if it included the chief, the captain or not, because at the time I don't even think you knew whether you wanted to run.
Initially, I was a lot of doubt.
Right. So that happened later on. So it's always been my thought to go through this process. Another process was presented, and we have to consider it, but I never changed from wanting to do that. This happened, I think you guys were going a little bit back and forth with whether you're going to go with the plan that was proposed or to go through the hiring process. I presented the hiring process. I mean, it could have been done another way.
That's what you're saying, but if you're saying, and could I get a copy of that, please, of the charter that you're referring to?
Certainly, I can read it to you. It's Article 1, Section 9. Appointments, powers, and duties of certain officers is repealed, reenacted, and amended to read as follows. And this you did in 2016, as I recall. Appointments, powers, and duties of certain positions. Upon the recommendation of the mayor, the majority of the mayor and council, town council, shall appoint the town administrator and chief of police, who shall serve at the pleasure of the mayor and council. The town administrator and the chief of police shall be supervised by the mayor or designee. The mayor and town council, and then it goes on. So I think there's a misunderstanding here about a couple of things. Whether someone's the chief of police or not is not dependent on how you pick them. Okay? You can pick a chief of police from your own ranks if that's what you choose to do. You can pick a chief of police after going through an interview process where you've solicited various people. However you pick the person doesn't mean that they're not the chief. I think that gets confused here with the other issue of being a chief, which is that, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Captain, you don't want to be a chief of police as defined in the Maryland State Code because you don't want to give up your rights as a police officer.
That's
to the
scary, I must admit, yes.
To the LEOBR protections, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And LEOBR is the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. Right. Someone who is a chief in a town, and I've seen both, can retain their LEOBR status and police officer status, or just be a chief of police. And I'm not sure with Chief Walker. I think
he went back and got his certification back.
Yeah.
So he was a card-carrying police officer.
Right, and so he was in that same kind of position that you want to be in if you were in the position.
Right.
Okay. There are other chiefs that are not did not require that they continue to be police officers. You don't have to be a police officer, frankly, to be a chief, and I know you're aware of that.
Yeah.
So they're two different things. That's what is an issue here, because if someone such as Chief Walker, because he retained his status, and the captain, if he became your chief, if you didn't want him to be chief anymore, he would still be a police officer in your force, unless you removed him for disciplinary proceedings through a hearing board. That's a lot of information I've just laid on the table, and that's pretty technical. I'm sorry that that's the way it is, but so it doesn't. The main point I wanted to make is, whatever process you use to pick your chief still means that the person can be the chief. So it doesn't matter if you go out for a panel or not. The mayor, because the mayor is the one who has to make the recommendation after listening to the residents, has decided that this is the best way to go to find the person that she wants to recommend to you. And then you will decide whether that's acceptable or not. Now, can you put each other at an impasse on this? Yeah, you can. But that shouldn't be what you do, because you need a chief eventually. So you got to work together on it, because the mayor gets to vote on the chief also.
Oh, you said the mayor votes on the chief?
Mm-hmm. That has
along with the council?
Right, that has been in the wording of your charter for decades. Okay, none of that was changed in this recent change that you did. That's always been there. That it's the mayor that recommends, and a majority of the mayor and the town council. Now that means that your number is added in, but it doesn't have to be you that votes for it. And then the person serves at the pleasure of the mayor and council. So.
I have a question. I just don't want to interrupt anybody.
Go ahead.
So, is it, so Ellen, I'm trying to sort of understand the distinction of having a chief that has the LEOBR protections and one that is, you know, maybe what is more traditionally considered a chief that really serves at the pleasure of the mayor and the council.
Right.
So would it be safe to say, or is it correct to say, that if we hire a chief that maintains the LEOBR protections and sort of a, you know, a regular law enforcement officer, that we have somewhat less ability to ensure or hold to account the chief to ensure that they carry out the policy objectives of the council and the mayor?
You have the ability to terminate that person from the chief's position, but you don't have the ability to terminate that person from the department.
Got it.
Without a hearing and a hearing board that determines that there's some kind of disciplinary issue that occurred that would warrant a termination.
Got it. Okay. Because just so that the council and the mayor understand, I was trying to think of an example of what this would mean. And can y'all hear me?
Yes.
So I was trying to think of an example of what this would mean, and if you know, if we had a chief who sort of who decided to go against, like, you know, the council and the mayor's policy objectives of ensuring that, you know, our Spanish-speaking residents, if they're pulled over by law enforcement, that they're not asked about their immigration status and turned over to ICE, right?
Right.
Like, legally, a chief could, or a chief could change, you know, could sort of get the department to do that, but we would be able to dismiss a chief who did such a thing if they were not, if they came on just as a chief and not with the LEOBR protection.
I think in that circumstance, because that requirement would be part of the general order manual for everybody, that not only would you be able to dismiss the person as the chief, you'd be able to dismiss the person just generally because they're violating the general order manual. So there'd be a disciplinary problem there too.
Just more steps.
Yes, there'd be, as the captain just said, there'd just be more steps, and that's correct.
Got it.
Where this comes, where the intersection is on these is usually something where, for one reason or another, it's not a disciplinary matter, but it's just not working out. You know, there's something, it's just not working out, you're not pleased, but it's not something that the person has done that's a violation of the code or the general order manual. It's just that it's for one reason or another. An example I can come up with would be, you find that the person doesn't do a good job of hiring police officers, and they're just not doing a good job of that, and the people are washing out, and they're not a good judge of character or personnel. That's not a disciplinary matter particularly, because the person's not trying to do anything wrong and is following general order manual, but their judgment about, you know, as a manager is not good. So that's an instance where I could see where you might not want that person to be chief anymore, but you wouldn't have grounds necessarily to terminate them from the force. That would be.
And if we had, and I'm not suggesting all that this is the case, but like if we keep the captain in place without a chief and have this like de facto position where the captain is the leader of the police department, and we have those kinds of problems, there's basically nothing we can do about it.
That's true, unless you have a way. You know, there are ways to do that. Like, you can dismiss someone for a non-disciplinary matter. The case that comes up the most often is if somebody's late all the time. You know, they just can't get to work on time. They lose their license and they can't drive for another reason. Okay. Then they can't fulfill the job anymore, and then therefore you could let them go. It's not a disciplinary matter. I think if you hired somebody in a supervisory role, and they were unable to fulfill that supervisory role. They were just not equipped to do it. Yeah, I think that you could remove them from that position, but if there's another position that they had in the department that they could still fulfill, you'd still have that person in that position. That's kind of,
Okay.
you know, we're going to kind of into the weeds on this without knowing exactly what the fact patterns would be, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to understand is it sounds that without someone being without having a chief, whether or not they have the LEOBR protections or not, that it puts the council and the mayor in a worse position for conducting oversight.
The most secure position for the town in terms of ensuring that the chief does what you want the chief to do is to hire a chief who is not also claiming LEOBR rights, claiming being a police officer, has given up the status of police officer. That is the situation where the town is most assured that it will be, that its interests are the
Control.
ones. Yeah. So that is
Okay.
the case. And, you know, you have different situations. I know, I think Bladensburg has someone who's retained their police officership. University Park has not. Riverdale Park, I think, also has not. There's a range.
Okay.
And a lot of that's
Okay.
because they're retired from other agencies and they're set.
It's hard to say one way or the other, but yeah, they could have gotten police officer a card anyway
Right.
from the Maryland Police Training Commission, but they don't. So,
Thank you.
those are the options that you have, but that is not affected at all by how you pick the person.
Right.
Okay, and so I think for me, I'm not going to try to speak for everybody else, but for me, I think I was confused as in thinking we had a choice as to whether we could have a chief or not. So you're saying we don't have a choice. So because we've been going around and around with this, and I think had we just known there's not a choice in whether or not we can have a chief, you know, we have to go through the process of getting, because that's what for us, that's what, and I don't want to speak for you and I don't want to speak for Mr. Johnson, but for myself, I think I was under the impression that we had a choice between having a chief and not having a chief.
I was on the list.
So
I see.
Yes, that's
Yes,
kind of
right,
where,
that's where-
and
Yeah,
we've
all
done
this
so many
has
meetings
been
and
thrown out
all
this
this, and then
on the very
and
first
now all of a sudden
discussion.
we're finding out
well,
that we
I
have to have
unfortunately
one.
wasn't there for that one, but the captain can still be your chief. Okay, you can still have this person be the same person. It's just that the captain does not want to be the purely chief kind of position. He wants to retain his ability to be a police officer and his LEOBR rights, but it doesn't mean he can't be a chief. Like I said, over in Bladensburg, they have their chief, Stone, did not give up his police officer position. Okay, he's still a police officer also. So to terminate him totally from the department, as opposed to from the chief's position, you would have to have like I said, some kind of administrative reason that was purely administrative, or some kind of disciplinary matter. You know, I'm trying to not go too far. The whole area of who gets LEOBR protections and not is a very complicated area. It's a whole kind of specialty area, frankly. I've had a lot of experience with it, but it's not an easy lift in terms of understanding it really fast. But so, in answer to your question, is there a way for the captain to be the chief in a way he wants to be the chief? There is. He can be the same person. The point that we're making right now is that the recommendation has to come from the mayor. The mayor, after listening to what the residents had to say, believes that she would like to follow up with this, process where there's been a solicitation through Johns Hopkins and some resumes received. And then she will look at those, and I think you've just said that you'll involve anybody that wants to be involved in looking at that. Yeah, and then we'll bring that choice to you. whomever that is, and then you will decide whether or not that's acceptable to you. But the information that you had previously, that the chief and the captain can be one and the same person, is still true. They can be.
Yeah, but I think the confusion came, we thought that we had a choice. We can either get rid of the whole position completely and just work with a captain who will be in charge and have additional officers who will patrol. We thought that was an option, and also the option would be having the chief, a captain, and a smaller
I think
police.
not only would you have to change your charter for that one, you'd have to change your general order manual too.
Yeah, so I don't understand why the option was presented to us if now you're saying that basically it's invalid. I don't understand, because you presented that offer to us and we were going to vote on that. So I'm just surprised that now, months later, we're hearing that.
Well, I haven't seen the offer, so I don't know what it is. It doesn't really matter if you call the captain or the chief. You can call him what you want. He's the top guy. So I'm still not sure what the difference is or what kind of plan it was that made it important.
It was a plan, basically, if I may, that they were taking the chief's salary out of the equation and hiring an additional officer. And just letting me run it as the captain, which gave me my Bill of Rights. And that's the confusion, because I was going by state law. I didn't go by the charter. Okay? And that's part of the confusion, and that's part of my problem. I should have addressed it more. Rod came up with the figures, and I looked at it, and it seemed feasible. So I'll take the hit for that one. But
well, I don't think that there's anything in the state law that says that you can also be the chief. Okay,
right, there's not,
and you can
nothing
always
says you have
change
to have
the
a chief
amount. You
either.
can always make an arrangement with whomever you pick as to what they're going to be paid. You're just talking about FTEs there, and at what level? Full-time employee. Yeah. Just.
You think police talk is bad?
Right. Sorry. So
I think.
No, excuse me for the interruption.
Yes.
It just boils down to contract employee or non-contract employee. Say the good doctor here want to be the chief of police, and you all picked her, and she could have in her contract written that she doesn't have to eat any jelly beans while working. That's all it is. Whether the captain gets the position, the doctor gets the position, the council and the mayor still have complete control over the work that's performed. And if you want to say, certain stipulations, people not challenged about their immigration status, that's still full control for you. Excuse me, racist. But the bottom line is, with a contract, then the good doctor would be able to say, well, I don't want to work Sundays, and if you agree to it, that's a contract. But it also makes it easier where if you say, you're not doing the job, then the doctor could leave. Whereas, and please, no slight at you, if good captain has some problems, issues, he still retains his job. He just no longer has that particular position.
that's how that would be written. That's right.
Thank you. Okay. So since we've talked about that, is there any other discussion on that?
Well,
I'll catch you off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll catch you
Oh, wait,
off.
one moment, Sarah.
Well,
Okay.
since now with the job description and you all requiring certification, that automatically would put it back in the same ball field, wouldn't it, as with the Bill of Rights?
If you want to have a chief who's going to patrol and have certification, it does. If that's because the chief can patrol, but he's not a certified officer. Okay, that doesn't mean he can't carry a gun or any of those
Make
things.
arrest, everything.
Right, but it's just that he's not a certified officer. So you may want to look at that again. I mean, you know, that's up to you as to what you want to require or not require. A certified officer gets a card from the Maryland Police Training Commission. The commission owns the card, and the certified officer gets it from them and has to return it when they stop working for a particular agency. But as I said, a chief does not have to be an officer with a card.
So, and I hate to beat a dead horse. So when we were going back and forth, discussing which way we're going to go, you weren't aware of any of those discussions.
You know, I wasn't present at your meetings about this. I was present in one closed session where we talked about going to the panel. So, you know, that's what I know. But what I'm saying is, you haven't been misled by anyone. The chief and the captain can be the same person.
No,
and
but
you only pay them for one thing.
That's not the question. Let's take Captain Silver out of the equation. We thought we had a choice as to whether we can just eliminate that position. That was where
and you're trying to do that because you want to save the money. I want to make it clear to you. By making it, I'm sorry to keep referring to you, Captain. If you had the captain and the police chief in the same body, you're not going to pay them double.
Yeah, but right now there's a possibility we could have the captain and the chief. Then we have the double payment. And
that's true. That's true regardless. Okay? Regardless of whether the chief and the captain, if you call this man the captain or the captain and the chief, it doesn't matter. You're not going to pay him twice. Okay? You're going to pay one person for the job. So, you know, or you're going to have a chief and a captain.
Right, which is
there's two salaries.
That's two salaries.
Right, but that's true if you pick somebody else. That's always been true.
Right, and we thought that we had a choice.
We didn't have to pick somebody
right,
else.
We didn't, right, we
you don't have to pick somebody else. Okay? What has to happen is the mayor will make a recommendation to you. You will either accept that recommendation or you will not. Like I said before, you can put each other into a stalemate if you want to do that. That's the way this is set up. Okay? That would be unfortunate, but you can.
So I think that it sounds like, Sophia, if I'm understanding this correctly, that none of us until tonight had an understanding of like who the first decision maker here was. Right, like, cause this is sort of the opposite of how things usually get voted in for Edmonston. Right, like usually it's from the council votes first and the mayor's a tiebreaker. Here, the mayor presents it and votes and a decision is made from that. That seems to be the ultimate sort of difference that we're looking at here from what we previously understood. At least from my perspective.
No. I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay.
Just to reiterate, Councilmember Sophia, I mean, it does seem to be beating a dead horse, and apparently some of us either didn't do due diligence, didn't know however it happened. We have acknowledged that there was a misunderstanding, so now that we all understand what the process has to be, because I was really interested in the budget piece. This is probably
a good
why
summary.
More residents don't come to it.
That was a good summary. Thank you.
I'm a little surprised while we're here on this topic that the whole process in terms of due diligence or the ordinance that she's reading wasn't known by everybody that's actually on the council in a position to make decisions for our town, that you guys are not aware of what the policies and procedures are. That's a little alarming to myself. I don't know about the other resident here, in that we've taken some 30 minutes to kind of go back and forth over some things just because people that should have been aware were not aware.
Thank you.
Any board that I've sat on.
Well, aren't the books being updated and we just haven't received them
but
yet?
if she said that the things that are being updated are not the things that have changed, that have been in place for some time now.
That is true.
Yeah, this is in the current ordinances that are available that you have.
Yeah.
So, we're going to go through the process that we all agreed on when you were in the closed session, and just finish it out. We all have the understanding now about the process. I can recommend, and then we vote. Either it's a yay or it's a nay.
But you just said the process that we all agreed on?
Yes,
We all agreed on that?
Yes. you did.
I don't recall.
You did.
I'm just like Jeff said.
So yeah, we
I
go
don't
back to the
re-
same.
I don't
We go back to
recall.
the same scenario. So
Yeah, I know,
it's
sir.
in the
I don't
closed
recall.
session. Yeah,
Fine.
we go
Yeah,
back to the
that's
same
all right.
scenario. So
I'm just glad it's been that we
Clarified.
understand it. Yeah.
Right.
It's
So
clarified
I
now,
wish
but
it
you
had
would
been
think,
clarified
you would
before.
think from the very beginning, there would have been clarification instead of going
And that's the
through,
problem.
instead of going
And
through
that's the
everything we go.
problem. And that's-
I mean, look how long you said on
The-
you know,
I
on
think
on
it's been
this.
a very long time
you
for
know,
us to go back and forth as well.
one would think you would have had the clarifications
Yeah, you could've
right
brought
then and there
it
at
in
the
front
time,
of us also.
instead of us going through all this
All right.
rigmarole.
Yeah,
you know?
Let me do this for-
just as she brought it through us.
Because my notes
long as
have it
you-
from
long as you've been in there.
9/27,
It
2017.
seemed like you
we
would put it out
discussed
there out front.
Okay, well,
But we got it.
my
It is what it
first option, I brought to you what should have been done. The reason I opened it up to the council was because I wanted you to take a part in it. I could have just as well selected the resumes, accepted the resumes, reviewed the resumes myself, and then presented someone to you. I wanted the council to take part. I did not want to exclude you. Another option was presented, but that option failed. I allowed that option to be presented. We agreed in a closed session a month and a half ago, if not 2 months ago, to go through this process. For some odd reason, the other option kept being brought up. You guys have the vote, and so no one was listening. I was still wanting to go through the process that I selected that included you. So now we have to specify the ordinance. I'm not going to try to do anything that's opposite of what the ordinance is or opposite of what our.
You say-
wait a minute, I'm
you
sorry.
say that now.
Excuse me.
You say that
Wait a minute.
now.
Mr. Johnson, let me finish.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to say anything that's opposite of what Ms. Ferguson is saying. She was in the meeting with
No,
us.
she wasn't.
She was in the closed session when we agreed.
No, I'm talking about what for everything that went on. She was not there.
She wasn't
because
there with them.
for what went on in that particular meeting, she wasn't there, and we went about that meeting wrong.
You sure did.
You was leading it.
No, I didn't lead
Yes,
that
you
part.
were.
I led the work session,
Oh,
but
come on, man.
no, listen.
Okay, well, why did we vote in that meeting and then we table and then we tabled and
What
then
we're
we
not going
tabled?
to do, what we're not going to do, it's no reason for us to raise our voices in that manner.
Well, I don't want you
We're gonna
talking
be
to me
calm.
the way you talking to me in that manner.
Okay, so
like
we're gonna-
like I don't know what I'm talking about.
So we're going to stop.
See?
Okay, so we're going to stop.
Like I don't know what I'm talking about.
I'm not talking to you as
No,
if you don't know
well, you're good. You're pretty good at that.
what we're going to do is show respect at our table. If you have something to say, I'm allowing you to say it. I don't have a problem with that. Thank you.
But what I will go on record, because I do take my my position as a council member, I go to the campaign, and I do take it seriously, and I do stay informed. The reason why we're having this conversation was because certain things were presented to us a certain way, and now the terms have changed. So it's not a fact that we're misinformed. It's just that, as Mr. Johnson was saying, we were in the process of voting on something else, and then that was tabled, and it was tabled for us to come back and vote. So that's why we're having this discussion. It's not the fact that we're for lack of not taking our position seriously and coming in here ill prepared, because I'm very much prepared.
I hope you didn't think that I was insinuating.
No, I just want clarification. That's one,
Because
yes.
it's a place doesn't mean either that due diligence. Just because someone presents something to me doesn't mean that that's open or that makes it okay for me to consider it. Even if someone comes to me and says that, you know what, we're having a vote for you to get $1 million, I still have to see whether or not.
No,
that's
we sat
happening.
here, we were about to vote, and
So
then
that could very
it was
well be.
tabled.
I'm just saying for the purpose of moving forward.
Yeah, I know we're gonna move forward, but I just wanted to make clarification that I'm not sitting up here
Well, it's
just
the
asking
ordinance that
questions.
she talked about that I'm more concerned about.
Okay.
The rest of the stuff, like you said, it's obsolete at this point.
Is there any more discussion? on police chief.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So Tracy, if you are still going to go forward with doing panels and you're offering for council members to be involved with that, I would like to be involved with that.
I think you already knew that. We said that everyone is going to be involved in that.
Okay, yeah, well, no, you also just, I'll start it up. I just wanted to be sure that it was clear.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
All council was involved in it, as we stated before.
And I copped to the fact that I didn't do my due diligence and look up the way that the appointment process, that I didn't look at the ordinance to see exactly how the appointment process for the chief was supposed to move forward. I did make an assumption that it would be kind of like any other thing that we do, and it's not. It's an exception. So I copped to that completely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other discussion on that before we move on? All right. So down to new business. First thing we need to do is to approve the minutes from April the 3rd, the town council work session, and the 25th, and also May 1st. And our closed session that was held on April 25th. If all are in agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is the minutes from the April 11th Town Council regular meeting. Is there a motion?
I'm sorry, we didn't make who was the motion? Who made the motion?
All were in favor.
All were in favor? Okay.
The minutes from April 11th Town Council regular meeting, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So we're making a motion now? Just
For this one item, yes, this one item.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for April 11th Town Council regular meeting.
Is there a
I
second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is the consideration of approval to renew the town's general obligation bond with TD Bank, and Mr. Barnes is going to update us on that information there.
Mayor, apparently sometime back when you were doing street work and public improvements, you did a general obligation bond series 2011, so it was done on actually August 4th, 2011, and it was set up then to go over a period of time with 3-year increment renewals, that all of the covenants and the stipulations from the original issue were still being met and offered by TD Bank. You did this in 2014, and so the 3-year period hit in 2017. I wasn't aware of it until the bank notified me about a month and a half ago that this was something that needed to be done, because general obligation bonds typically are for a 20-year period or a 30-year period, and you don't do anything in between. But this particular issue was set up that way. So TD Bank would like to renew again, same term, same rate. It would be for another, again, 3-year period. And so the first process in that is for you to approve, the council to approve you signing the letter that would put that into action. Mm-hmm. Then Sue Ellen would review they would do a bank acceptance note that would come out for Sue Ellen to review, and then Sue Ellen would eventually issue an opinion letter that says that it meets all the requirements, and then goes back to the bank.
I am thinking, Rod, that I know the last time around we also had to do a resolution.
Oh, okay. He sent me the documents that
I have these documents also, but there was also a resolution, 14-R-02.
Okay.
The amending resolution. And so I think there may also be a resolution needed. So it's a good thing we're meeting pretty soon.
Right.
to do that, and,
I'll go back to the bank and
well,
if we can't find it in our files.
I have it.
Oh, okay. The resolution?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
2014 dash,
Okay.
yes, I have all of these.
Okay.
Yeah. So I will pull that. My recollection is that you probably do need that also because you're
Okay.
going to be changing some terms.
Okay.
But I'm aware of how you do the letter and the other, and you're also going to be requesting a continuance date from July of last year to now.
No, they actually were going to start it from whatever date we end up accepting. So they were going to just forget about the period of time between.
Yeah, but it
the
goes
last.
back to them.
Okay,
there's
that's
a-
fine.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I know. but
I'm giving you what the
Yeah.
representative from the bank told us.
maybe that person and I should just talk directly.
Correct.
Because we've been through this process before. I understand the process.
Mhm.
And I think you're going to need a resolution. And we'll get that conversation done before your
Okay.
next meeting so that we'll have whatever you need to be able to pick up go back to
Okay.
the last time of renewal and go forward from there.
Thank you for that clarification.
I think the reason he thought that it didn't need that was because it referenced the original issue.
Right, but we also, at that time, did a resolution that amended
Yeah,
the
I
original
understand.
issue.
I understand. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, because he was new to it, it wasn't the same person, Mr. Chiffon, that did it originally.
Yeah.
So he was
Yeah.
trying to pick up the pieces from what
Yeah.
somebody had left him.
Yeah, he called me one day, but then he moved over to talking to you, so, but I think I need to get back in the middle there. 'Cause
Okay.
I think you're gonna need a resolution.
All right. Any discussion on that from the council? No? Okay.
No, so we'll just wait till they'll push this off.
Well, yeah,
Till June.
we know that
Our
you,
June meeting.
the council knows, and that you wish to go forward to do that, and so, otherwise you gotta pay the whole bond off right now, so.
Right.
Normally wanna do that. So we'll change
No.
the bank put date, that's what they call it, and, so you can do that. You have a meeting coming up pretty soon, beginning of,
June 6th.
So, we'll do that then.
Anyway,
6.
everything happens on June 6th.
All right. So the next item is the introduction of ordinance 2018 OR-01, amending our annual budget.
Your Honor, members of the council, we each year go through this. There's two ways that you can amend the budget typically. Most towns, I guess, wait till the very last minute so the year is finished and use that time frame then to make sure that all the budgets are in line. That also allows for all the grants to come in and all the grants that are going to be spent because we don't always budget. We try to budget the grants we know are going to happen in the fiscal year, but a lot of times we don't know that a grant's coming in or we know that we have to spend it. So essentially what you're amending is the grant amount, approximately $240,000 when the budget was approved originally. That was not in there. So this just moves that particular budget to meet those requirements. I mean, I'm glad to answer any questions. You're not spending any more additional money, huh?
This is what we did today.
No, this is the current fiscal year. Then your next one will deal with what you talked about in the work session today.
Did you change the numbers?
Not yet.
Is there any discussion?
So is it
From what Mr. Barnes-
$240,000 in grant money that you're waiting for? Or?
No, it came in and
Oh, it came in
this
already.
fiscal year
Okay.
and we spent that. If you
Okay.
recall on all the reports, you see what grant dollars go out based on a grant expenditure and so on.
Any questions from our citizens?
And next year, I think we budgeted
For this year?
almost $350,000 to happen.
All right. If not, the next item is.
You need to introduce the ordinance and through a
Oh,
motion.
did I skip that? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion for the introduction of the ordinance amending our annual budget for FY 17 to 18.
I so moved.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. The next item is the introduction of ordinance 2018-OR-02, adopting the FY 18-19 annual budget.
Okay, Your Honor, this particular ordinance does have some changes that will come about, and those were that you added potential contribution to the Port Towns CDC for $1,000, In-Time Harvest Ministry for $1,800, and you reduced $3,100. So the net
contract?
impact is you're reducing $300 on this particular ordinance. So when it comes back to you, Sue Ellen, right, when it comes back on the final reading, it would need to be in that form, right?
I thought we also added 1,000 for eco-cities.
Oh, I'm sorry, missed that one, so it's left,
That's
it's
okay.
1,300, thank you.
Thank you.
And the changes in the cleaning service?
Yes, that was a reduction of 3,100,
What, the cleaning service?
yes,
To 65. Better.
to 6,500. From 9,600 to 6,500. Is that correct? Okay.
All right. Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2018-OR-02, adopting the FY 18-19 annual budget?
I make a motion that we, at the introduction of ordinance 2018-OR-02, adopting the fiscal year 18-19 annual budget.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any questions about the budget from our citizens? No? No. Fantastic. The next item is the consideration of agreement with Shepherd Energy for our weatherization grant.
Your Honor, this
Great
is a
grant.
This is a continuation, essentially. We were lucky enough that we originally got our weatherization grant, and then they came out with a second round of funding that gave us $50,000. And so, because Shepherd Energy we'd went through the bidding process, and they had been the low bid the last time around, we are requesting that we approve their agreement, which is an agreement that Sue Ellen wrote for this round, which we have $50,000, and we have all of the applicants and are ready to move out and complete the project. Our next round of application will be August.
Oh,
Ma'am,
August.
may I
Yes,
speak?
ma'am.
This is one that I've written. It's been updated. There's a couple of non-substantive changes that I have in a draft that I can send to Rod right now. So if you could approve it in substantially the form that's on the table, he can then include the non-substantive changes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I know that Shepherd Energy is they are in charge of the weatherization grant. They're,
In terms of providing the
I guess the service.
Mhm.
And do they do we choose the contractors, or do they choose the contractors that they use, I guess, to come out and do the
They
work?
choose their own subcontractors to come out.
Okay.
We're just in agreement, we're making an agreement with Shepherd Energy. They choose
Okay.
their own subcontractors to actually do the work.
And the grant covers everything that they do, even all this $100 for each qualifier energy and so forth and whatnot.
Okay, and I'm asking this because, and I guess my weatherization was a part of Shepherd Energy, right? I guess I wasn't really happy with the subcontractors that they chose, because they had to come out a few times for my heating unit. It's a heating and air conditioning unit, and now the air conditioning unit doesn't work. It's not working, so I've got to call them again for that. But I know it took 3 times for them to come out to repaired that, and I'm hoping it doesn't do the same thing this time. But I guess I'm just questioning the subcontractors that they use. Is that something I have to talk to them about, or do you talk to them about it?
I mean, I can go back to them, but I mean,
Okay.
any grant that we award, we're not in control of their
Right.
subcontractors. So,
Right.
I mean, I can call Crystal tomorrow and have them contact you in regards
Okay,
to
well,
the AC.
I can call them because I have a number for them. I was just wondering if that's something they choose, or
It's
Yeah,
something
and
that
they
they
have a,
choose.
you know. or-
We can voice the concern that, you know,
Yeah.
they may be using a subcontractor that they need to take a harder look at.
Right. Okay. That's my only question.
Have you got any other complaints from any residents who received the grant?
Not really. I mean, not really. Unless they've reached out to Crystal directly, I haven't
aware.
received any
Okay.
complaints.
The town doesn't have anything to do with that. I mean, the person that was awarded the work is not satisfied with their services, even though you have no control over what subcontractors that they select. Do you have is there some type of follow-up or tracking mechanism to make sure that
Moving forward, or like you mean like with the past?
right, because they were re-granted, or is it the same company that you?
I mean, we can meet with Crystal and address Councilmember Bennett White's concerns, and like I said, if she's received any complaints, I haven't. So I don't know if residents were contacting her directly or not. But I can meet with her and Rod and I.
Because I have been calling the contractor myself the last few times. I think the one time I did call Miss
Crystal or
not Crystal, the
Yusuf?
other gentleman.
Yusuf?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just called the contractor because he was the one who installed it. So it, to me, it would have been kind of crazy to go to him.
We
We
can
don't
reach.
know if that's the same contractor that'll be doing the second round either.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, she may have a new subcontractor.
Right.
I don't know. But I mean, we can definitely address the concerns before we even sign the contract. So.
We can reach out to
Yeah.
our grant recipients to get feedback on whether they're still having problems or whether there were issues to begin with.
My thing got lost. The page was stuck. I was looking for the sheet. I just found it. Can I just ask
Yes,
a
go
quick
ahead.
question? Even though you've asked
This
it,
budget.
Is that okay?
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. That's fine.
So on the proposed budget, and you go back to the police department for the year to date actual, 430,000 versus the actual 15 to 16. Was that when the actual police chief was in place?
He left 15.
No, he left in this current
15,
fis-
16.
Yeah, July
He
12th.
just left.
Current
16.
fiscal year.
16.
So that extra $300,000 or so, is there a bonus for Captain Sullivan who's doing the actual work of acting police chief?
Dr. Dowse, the year-to-date number on there is through January. So since January, there's a whole lot more expenditures.
But
Well, I
that
like your
salary
idea.
is still kind of hanging there.
I'm
The
sorry?
salary that he was getting is
Yes.
being used somewhere else.
But no, it's just being saved.
So do you guys have an allotment for some type of bonus since he is actually doing the work of two people, even though she said that you can't have one person be two people, but he's actually taking
Well-
over those responsibilities in addition to what he was already doing?
Yeah, yeah. We haven't considered that bonus or anything like that.
And I just
No.
say that in
No.
case you reach a stalemate coming, how long will that go on as he continues to work as a captain and the acting chief?
Well, the hope is that we won't reach a stalemate, that somewhere a decision could be made. The decision could be made that the captain is chief.
Right.
I think that's exactly what Ms. Ferguson was saying, that
Right.
it's not
And I
cutting the
understand all
captain
that,
out.
I guess
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
the
saying
process.
that, is there any way that
Yeah.
you give them at least a bonus or something for the work that he's done for the town in the absence of the police chief? Maybe we should consider that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Has it been a year? It hasn't been a year. Right?
10 months.
It's
July.
been
July
July.
12th.
Yeah.
July 12th
Seems
is
like it's
when Chief Walker left.
been- Okay. Okay, I get it.
Okay. That's something that we can think about and discuss at another time. Sorry. What are the paper?
To approve and substantially the form attached.
Right. Oh, yeah. The consideration, I'll entertain a motion to consider the agreement with Shepherd Energy for the weatherization grant with the additional possible changes that
in substantially the form attached, or
And
on the
substantially the
table,
form
on the
that-
on the table tonight.
attached. Additions and any other changes.
I so move for the for the grant for Shepherd Energy for the weatherization program.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, our next item is our police report.
Okay, there's copies back on the table underneath the TV if anyone wants them. We had one 911 hang-up, one assist EMS, 13 assist other officers. It could be our officers or Bladensburg or whoever. In fact, today I assisted Riverdale Park with a gentleman in front of Riverdale Elementary fighting. Burglary type alarms, 1. Disorderlies, 7. Missing person, 1. Suspicious people, 7. Suspicious vehicles, 1. Suspicious vehicles occupied, 4. Theft from autos, 2. Traffic accidents, 5. 1 hit and run. 1 traffic complaint. 1 unknown trouble. 5 vandalisms. 1 theft. 18 others that just don't fit in any of those categories. For citations, we had 2 state citations for stop signs, 1 for seatbelt, 1 for a driver's license violation, usually that's suspended license, 1 for cell phone or texting, and 7 others. Warnings, we had 1 registration violation, 2 speeding, and 8 others, and 2 safety repair orders and 14 parking tickets. Officer Torres, who just got sworn in again tonight, is doing very well. With any luck, she'll be cut loose probably middle of June. She'll, by then, have completed about 430 hours of field training with Corporal Young. He's putting her through her paces, getting her to see a lot of different things, and she seems to be doing very well. Other than that, right now, that's all I have. I'm working on getting things ready for as far as signs and bodies to help us for Edmonston Day, and so far so good.
So y'all actually go after people texting? I mean, you see them, y'all.
Mm-hmm. We try, but sometimes it's they're getting
kind of hard.
Well, that and they get sneakier nowadays because they know we're looking for them. They sort of on these numbers.
Yeah, that's the ones that run up under tractor trailers and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Well, that and like with seatbelt, they used to the state highway put out grant money for seatbelt enforcement because they figured out somehow statistically that most of the violations are at night. That's where they wanted to give us the money to work it. It's real hard to see a seatbelt at night, unless they're like the nice big trucks that have the bright orange seatbelts that you can see a mile away.
These 7 disorderly.
Mainly customer disputes.
Those guys that walk through the town.
No, most of them are customer disputes.
Oh.
They just get tagged as disorderly because that's how dispatch gives them to us.
So yeah, I haven't really had any calls with those locals.
We stop and talk to them, but we haven't really had any real big complaints.
So for suspicious suspects, because Mr. Johnson, you mentioned people that run around town. Are you referring to 2 gentlemen that walk around with a plastic cup with alcohol in it on Decatur Street?
It's a few of them.
Well, there's 2 that I've seen, which really made me concerned. So I saw them on the 16th. Monday the 16th, sorry, the 14th, Monday the 14th.
Okay.
I came home because I took a half day and I saw them over there by La Fondita, and you could tell, they're stumbling 12 o'clock during the day. And then when I went home and then I left, they were further down Decatur Street. So,
And they probably live on 49th Avenue. I wouldn't be surprised, or else in the tree line back here in the park.
yeah, I've seen them before. So they actually are residents, because I remember we had an
do
issue
have some
before,
residents
people living under the
right
bridge.
behind the restaurant.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so those are the gentlemen who live, okay.
They probably were.
So-
And as things have changed over the 30-plus years, it's a little harder for us to, if they're in the alcohol's in a cup, it's not as easy as the old days where you just go up and, smell it. I mean, we need probable cause, or reasonable suspicion. It's not, if they're walking down with the beer can and they're drinking from it, that's easy.
Yeah.
But that plastic cup, it's not as
Yeah,
easy.
but they almost falling down.
Yeah, they were stumbling.
Well, we just
Yeah.
have to talk to them, but we really have the right to.
And one actually waved
smell
at
the
me.
cup and-
In between the cup holders.
So,
So you're saying there's nothing really you can do unless you actually see.
we can stop and talk to them, and we can take them, if they're falling down drunk or whatever, but it's
doing
not
something
Yeah, it's
illegal.
just-
like
I mean, just think of it this way: if you were walking down with a cup full of soda, and we stop and talk to you and want to know what's in your cup, how are you going to take that?
Well, if I was stumbling,
Yeah, that's
that would be
stated now.
probable cause. But if I'm walking, I understand what you're saying. But and I've seen them before. I've seen these two
Right.
gentlemen before.
Well,
They're
I've also
they're
seen
always in
some of
Decatur
them that they
Street.
don't stumble because they just
They're
chew it
good
so
at
much.
it, right?
And the person, now that the
long as
weather,
they're not getting in the
now that
vehicle.
the weather's breaking, they got their little hidey holes, like up at the gas station. You can go back up in there, sit down, and on the other side of it, which needs to be, I don't know, that's part of code enforcement that needs to go and check it out. But I know behind that gas station in the wooded part, it needs to be cleaned up. I don't know whose property that it is, but it definitely needs to be cleaned
We
up.
come in tomorrow if you want to
Because
ride
it's
up
a
there.
bunch
Yeah,
of
We had an
yeah.
issue with that.
beer cans and
Nicole's
those,
actually
those
on
seats where they sit,
Nicole's actually on top of it. There's a piece of property right adjacent to the gas station that is owned by the county, but the county says that it's owned by the state. So they're getting clarification on which entity owns it, but it is on the list by at least by the state to clean it up.
They figure out whose it is, they gonna clean it up.
The state has actually put it on the list to come and clean it,
Oh, okay.
not waiting for the resolution of who owns it.
Well, why didn't they? Well, they should have cleaned that up a little spot too. Then
Yeah.
that's the state's too, right?
Right,
On Kenilworth,
Right.
between Elizabeth Landing and Fountain Park.
right.
Captain, you have something else?
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Mr. Johnson, I'll go ahead and start with you.
No,
since you
I don't have enough. I just said what
said your part.
what was on my mind as far as that goes.
All right. Ms. White?
The only thing I have is we had at Bladensburg High School, we had our final PTSA meeting for the school year. We had a security panel. It was a security meeting for safe schools and safe communities, and so we had a security panel. It was Chief Tracy Stone. It was the head of security for Prince George's County Public Schools. He didn't actually come, but he sent a representative. We had the resource officer for Bladensburg High School, and there was one other person, the head of security at Bladensburg High School. And so we had teachers, parents, students come in to talk about how we could improve the safety in the school and in the community. And it was very enlightening. I think what we found out most, even Mayor James, Takesha James came. But what we learned most was a lot of the problems that we have in our schools, security can't really handle it. It actually is handled through school administration. If they pick up, a lot of the problems they were telling us that they have is students loitering in the neighborhood. They're leaving school, going to the store, or whatever they do, even as much as hanging out in the apartment buildings, smoking and doing whatever they do. Instead of being in school, this is what they're doing. And so the police can pick them up and bring them back to school, which they do. But once they do that, then it's not the security in the school, it's the school administration. And now the county, what's it called, rules and student rights and responsibilities, student rights and responsibilities. The administration, principals, vice principals, their hands are really tied as to what they can do to these students. There's not a lot they can do. They do it's like a 5-step process, before they can even put them out of the school. They slap on the hand, they call the parents, they have a meeting, they do all that. But it has really kind of gotten out of hand as far as the kids in the neighborhood and the police having to pick them up and that type of thing. So the police chief came, he talked to us, the security talked to us, and just kind of informed us of what was happening and what was going on. It was very informative. What they came up with is how we can, as faculty, as staff, as parents, as students, what we can do to improve the safety, in the schools. One of the biggest ideas they came up with was, and I think Mayor James kind of came up with this, because she said, well, give a reason for them to stay in school. Do something where they want to be there. High school's probably hard, but she talked to the principal, and she talked about what they were going to try to do, because they don't even have, Bladensburg doesn't even have in-school suspension. It's not, they don't have in-school suspension. That says something they're working. Well, if they suspend a child, you would take them home, you send them home, but they try not to do that. The first thing they try to do is send them to a classroom or wherever they have a holding cell or whatever they call it for students, but they don't even have that.
Yeah, but isn't there a stipulation on it with the age? Because if you're a certain age, you can quit school.
Now it's 18.
Huh?
Now it's 18.
It's 18?
It used to be 16. Yeah, they've kind of upped that too. This is where it's becoming so difficult. It's becoming so difficult. They're having such a problem with, and one of the reasons, that we even had the panel there and the discussion was because of what's happening in the schools. There's so much shooting, and there's just so many things going on, and even the kids don't feel safe. Even the kids talk about, they don't feel safe. School is the one place where you used to be able to come and feel safe. You send your child to school. I was watching the news last week or week before last, and another parent gets on and says, I send my child to school, I expect him to come back home. And you get a call in, your child has been shot, or your child is killed, and so they're working on between the school security, between the administration, between the police. What they're going to do, because a lot of, like I said, with the students' rights and responsibilities, you can barely even say anything to the child, and then if you do, the parent gets all involved, and then it gets all crazy, and it's just totally out of hand.
And if you suspend them, then they just walk outside the house and get in more trouble.
That's it. You suspend them. If our principal used to suspend somebody, she'd call it going home on reflection. She said, I don't like to suspend. That means you stop. So they go home on reflection, and maybe they're thinking about what they did. Of course, that's probably not the case. But, and then you send the kids home on suspension or reflection or whatever. They come back, they got a new pair of tennis shoes or whatever. So, what's that teaching them? They talked about parent involvement, and we need more of that. Safety in school really starts at home. Parents need to start teaching students to be more respectful. So, teachers can't say anything to students. Assistant head of security, he was telling us, if he says something to a child like go to class, he said he's called everything but a child of God, and there's nothing he can do, nothing he can say, except to try to do the right thing. So the meeting was excellent. As parents, we learn things, as teachers learn things, because it's unsafe for teachers too. How do you know? In our school, and I'm in a K through 8 school, we had a little boy, 3 years old. He didn't bring a gun to school, but apparently his phone had a gun app. So, he pointed it at the teacher, and the kid said, oh, he said he was going to kill you. Those kind of things. And he wasn't even suspended for that. We as the faculty was like, what do you mean? That doesn't make it. In other words, he thought that, it's okay if I do this. So it really, to me, it starts at home with parents. teaching children right from wrong, teaching kids to be respectful, teaching them how to treat other people, how to be, respectful. So it was an excellent meeting. And it's a series of meetings of how we're going to, in the future, improve the high schools, middle schools, elementary schools. So our next meeting will probably be on attendance. We have a terrible truancy problem at Bladensburg, apparently. So that's one of our things. So if you see students, do you pick them up and take them back to school?
I try to.
Yeah. They said it's difficult, but
and unfortunately, I'm fortunate enough to have been an SRO for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, lucky it was an elementary school because I
Yeah.
couldn't deal with the high school, but I know some of the sources. I know that you can make a few phone calls and find out whether they're homeschooled or not.
Right.
But I saw my principal hold a kindergartner while he was kicking and punching because he tried to strangle his little classmate. And then he tried to take the gun out of my holster.
Happens a lot more often than people know.
Yeah, and we're talking a kindergartner.
Right.
So, I couldn't imagine high school.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's it for me.
I just had a couple of follow-ups about at the last meeting in April, we said we're going to get some bids for the Decatur Street project. How are we looking on the bids?
Good. He's finished up the specifications, so they'll you probably, now that your meeting is moved earlier in June, it's probably going to be your July meeting, but they'll go out for bid. And he's looking at a temporary repair because the hole's just getting bigger and bigger.
So he's going to do a temporary repair before we actually do the... Okay.
Yeah, because when we go out for bid...
WSSC going to come right behind it, right?
Not for a while, no. And they're not going to mess. They're going to be out in the middle of the street. They're not going to mess with the part that's getting replaced.
Yeah, because it's looking really bad. You got to swerve into oncoming traffic.
You really do.
Yeah.
You really do.
It's pretty scary.
Trailer came down the street the other day and he was like this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, that was just.
And Madam Mayor, you mentioned that you're doing a scholarship for. How's that going? A scholarship program for the.
I'm going to report.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm only saying that because I'm a little uncomfortable right now for the reasons you guys know about. We don't have a restroom here.
Oh.
So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I drink water.
I'll just go quickly. The restrooms have failed here. It's been an ongoing problem. We've had 2 plumbers, WSSC here. They've determined there's a blockage in the town's line that's potentially going to require digging up the front driveway and repairing the pipe. And so that proposal will come tomorrow. So the staff has been dealing with the temporary inconvenience and using the rec center restrooms. Sorry for that, but we're working fast to try to get it resolved.
Well, I'm glad that the employees are dealing with having to Dave and Steve, they're outside, but our police officers and the administrative staff, I'm glad that you're dealing with it and going to the rec center because that's an inconvenience. And people would quickly say, I shouldn't come to work today because there is nothing here in the building. So thank you.
No plumbing.
I appreciate that.
I'm kidding.
Sarah, I almost missed you. Did you have anything?
With my virtual presence.
Mm-hmm.
I just had a quick question for, I guess Shantae is our webmaster, and that's that now that we've adopted the budget, I'd love it if we can upload not just sort of the general ledger sheet for the new fiscal year onto the website, but also the line items, or at least like a little bit more detail than just sort of what we have in front of us with the breakdown. So anyway, I think that would be useful. And then the second thing I wanted to note is I asked Rod for an update of how many grants the town has received in the last 3 years. And we are officially over $1 million in grants. We're about at $1,020,000, and we've got more coming in. And I believe the Community Legacy Grant, Shantae, you put in an application for that today. And I just did a little bit of math, and so of what that percentage is of our budget each year. If we look at like how much of sort of the town's expenditures in a year are supported by grants, and the programs for our residents and improvements in the town that are supported through grant programs actually amount to 20% of the budget. So that's at no cost to the residents or businesses, and I just think that that is incredible. So thank you guys so much, because I know y'all are the ones that are looking for the grants. We approve it, and we'd like to come up with ideas, but you're the ones that find the money. So thank you.
Thank you. That was a very good point. Very, very good. Yes, we have brought in a lot of grants, a lot of money, a lot of resources for our residents with those grants. Thank you. Just wanted to let everyone know that the PGCMA meeting is Thursday in Riverdale. And Mount Rainier Day is Saturday. And the update for the Black Mayor's Gala, which is June 1st, it's their scholarship gala. We solicited some sponsors, and we received funding from our businesses, just a few, but we received quick responses at that to provide scholarships for, I guess, maybe 2 of our residents. And we purchased a table for the gala. So if you'd like to come, please let Mr. Barnes know. The recipients, we're looking for them to be at the table as well.
When is it again?
And where's it at?
June 1st.
June 1st
That's
at,
so weird. Where was that last time?
it's at, in Greenbelt.
Oh.
It was at the Camelot. We moved from the Camelot, and I think it's the Marriott. Okay. It's not at the Camelot.
It's not at Martin's Crossman. No.
Yeah.
Is it Martin's Crossman?
I think it is.
Marriott? Oh,
Yes.
Mark
What time is it?
All I know is not at the
Mark,
Camelot.
yeah,
6:30.
So have you chosen the recipients? Anybody from Edmonston?
No, it's going to be Edmonston. That's what
Okay,
it's for,
so-
Edmonston. No,
okay.
I have not.
Okay, so
and
what's
I'm
the process
not going
with-
to. We're going to have some questions, a short criteria, because time is very short. And also, please let your neighbors know to provide their names of any graduates, elementary, middle, high school, so that we can give them a shout out.
When at
The
Edmonston Day?
newsletter.
Oh, the newsletter.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
So before they graduate in June.
Okay, so
A lot of seniors are already.
what age group are we looking for the recipients for the
High school.
just
Graduate.
only high school? Oh,
graduates.
so they all have to be graduated.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, high school graduates.
Is there any literature I could pass out to residents?
We're gonna get that to you probably tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, because I know
We'll send it to
right down the street from me, there's several
Okay.
high school students.
That's tomorrow, Thursday. So by Friday.
Is this for seniors? High school seniors?
Uh-huh.
Graduating high school seniors. Okay. And how much is it? How much will they be rewarded?
We have about 1,000.
Oh.
Just about. It was a quick response too. We have some really good businesses here that provide support to us. Ms. Shante, if you don't mind highlighting some items on our upcoming events, please. Do you have the list?
It's at the Greenbelt Marriott.
Oh, Greenbelt Marriott.
The Green Team meeting will meet
Greenbelt Marriott
tomorrow.
for the mayor's
Mhm.
thing.
Right. At 7 p.m. Memorial Day, offices will be closed. However, we will have a Memorial Day ceremony at Veterans Park at 1 p.m. For the month of June, the work session will be held on the 5th. No, the 6th, I'm sorry. First, and then we will convene into our regular session after that. Movie in the Park will be held June 8th. The event committee selected Black Panther, which we will show at the Rec Center at 9 p.m. Feel free to come dressed in your favorite Marvel costume.
Or African attire.
However you want.
Forever.
Come have a good time with us.
DC Comics.
And Edmonston Day will be on June 9th. The parade will start at 11, and the festival will start at 12 noon until 4 at the rec center. So, that's it.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to add one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
To Sarah's comment. Today we submitted 2 grants totaling about $500,000 for Edmonston for community legacy. One we submitted was to expand the town hall for adding more space for the police department, and also if we are awarded, we will be able to offer our own like Spanish classes, just like more community impact grants. So grants are a huge part of what we do, and it is something great that we are able to provide for our residents. So I think, you know, Rod and I should be commended because we do a lot and we bring in a lot of grants and services for the residents. So
absolutely
I just wanted to add that in.
Absolutely do. And I just look at some other towns where they have to hire circuit riders, or they share. And we're lucky because we have 2 people in here that can get those grants going. So thank you. You should be commended for that. And it's not easy.
We do have our 3-wheel
not easy.
patroller, hopefully being delivered before Edmonston Day.
It's like right at the deadline, whether we're going to get it or not.
They're like, are you coming to get it or what? Because I'll go down there and get it. You know it.
And we got to get you a helmet too.
Yes, yes you do. All right, so that's all I have, and I just really want to stress to please let Mr. Barnes know if you plan on attending the gala on June 1st, okay?
I think I already have.
Yeah,
oh, you're in, okay.
yeah, I'll be
All
there.
right, what'd you say, Ms. Tuberville?
Very nice.
What'd you say?
I said okay.
Oh, okay. All right.
If there's still any.
If there is nothing else for the good of the order, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this fantastic meeting.
I make a motion that we adjourn this legislative meeting.
Second.
All right.
Sorry, did I second too soon then?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for your participation.
All right, bye.
Bye.